You smile in front of everyone, but when the door closes, the silence knows the truth. It knows the way your chest tightens when you finally exhale, the way your hands shake just a little as you set down your phone after pretending you're fine. It knows the sound of your tears, those quiet, hidden ones that never see the light of day, the ones you wipe away so quickly, even you pretend they never happened. You have become so good at masking the storm inside you that most people wouldn't even guess it exists, but you know. And the silence knows. You've learned to hold your pain in tight because the world doesn't always welcome the truth of a woman's brokenness. You've been taught that strength means smiling when you're breaking, carrying everyone else's weight while your own heart collapses under the strain. And so you cry harder in silence than you ever admit, because the silence doesn't demand explanations. The silence doesn't ask, "What's wrong with you?" The silence doesn't roll its eyes or tell you to get over it. It just listens. It absorbs every sob, every scream you swallow, every confession you can't speak aloud. And if we're honest, you're not just crying about one thing. You're crying about the words you never said, the times you stayed when you should have walked away, the moments you gave more than you had, hoping someone would notice, and they didn't. You cry for the girl you once were, full of hope, believing love would always be enough. You cry for the woman you are now, exhausted from pretending she's okay, knowing deep down she deserves more, but fearing it may never come. What nobody sees is how your heart carries invisible bruises. That's why your tears don't always fall when people expect them to. You might not cry in the argument, but later, when you're alone, your body remembers every word like it was carved into your skin. That's when the tears flood. The kind that burn, the kind that leave you gasping, the kind that make you press your face into the pillow so no one hears, because you'd rather people think you're strong than risk them seeing you at your weakest. But the truth is, silence becomes your secret confessional. You pour out everything there, your heartbreak, your disappointments, your rage, your grief. And yet, when the tears dry, you still paste on the same smile. You still show up for everyone else. You still answer, "I'm fine," when you're not. That's the hidden pain you carry, the kind you think no one understands. But here's what you may not have realized. There's a reason the tears are stronger in silence. A reason they feel heavier, sharper, more unbearable when no one is watching. And it's not weakness, it's something else, something you've never said out loud but feel deep in your bones. Think about the last time you cried in silence. Maybe it was after someone left and you couldn't find the words to explain how abandoned you felt. Maybe it was when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Maybe it was after giving everything you had, your love, your loyalty, your patience, only to realize it still wasn't enough to make someone stay. Whatever the reason, the pain behind it was real. And when you finally let yourself collapse, when the mask dropped, your tears weren't just about that one moment. They carried the weight of every disappointment stacked on top of each other. That's why they come out harder, harsher, loudlier. No one teaches women what to do with that kind of pain. No one teaches you how to mourn the invisible losses. The love that never came, the apology you'll never hear, the version of your life you imagine but will never live. So you keep it inside, you build walls around it. You tell yourself you'll get over it, but your body knows better. Your heart knows better. And so, the silence becomes the only place where the truth escapes. And yet, here's the part you rarely admit, even to yourself, there's a strange relief in those silent tears. Because in that hidden breaking, there's an honesty you don't allow yourself anywhere else. You stop performing. You stop holding back. You finally let the truth flow out of you without shame. And deep down, some part of you hopes that maybe, just maybe, those tears are not just weakness, but a doorway to something you haven't yet named. Why every woman cries harder in silence than she admits isn't just about heartbreak or loneliness. It's about the unspoken weight women carry every day. the quiet wars no one sees, the dreams that went unfulfilled, the love that wasn't returned, the pieces of yourself you gave away without receiving the same in return. It's about a battle between who you show the world and who you really are when the lights are off. And if you've ever wondered why those silent tears feel so heavy, why they shake you more than anything you've ever said out loud, the answer is waiting just beyond the edges of that silence. You've been crying harder not because you're weak, but because your soul has been begging for something deeper. Something you may not have dared to say yet, something that will change the way you see your tears forever. But before we go there, I want you to sit with this truth. The fact that you've carried all of this alone and still kept moving. That isn't weakness. That isn't shameful. That's the quietest, fierce kind of strength. And the very thing you've been hiding, those silent cries, might be the very thing that saves you if you can finally understand why they come and what they're trying to tell you. So let me ask you, when the silence knows your truth, when the tears fall harder than you admit, do you believe they're breaking you, or do you sense deep down that they might be breaking you open because the answer, your answer, holds more power than you realize? And that's where we're going next. You wake up in the morning, and before your feet even touch the floor, your hand reaches for your phone. You scroll through the notifications, hoping his name lights up the screen. Nothing, just silence. You tell yourself not to care, not to need it, but the truth is that small part of you aches every time the message doesn't come. And so you put the phone down, take a deep breath, and tell yourself to get on with your day. Because that's what you do. You carry on, even when your heart feels like it's waiting in the shadows. You make your coffee, glance in the mirror, and practice that smile you wear like armor. It's the same one you'll use at work, with your friends. Even when someone asks, "Are you okay?" you'll say, "I'm fine," because it's easier than explaining the heaviness sitting in your chest. Easier than admitting you cried yourself to sleep again last night. No one wants to hear how hard it is to be strong every day. No one wants to know that the silence in your bedroom is louder than any argument you've ever had. So, you keep going. You answer emails, make small talk, laugh at jokes you don't find funny, but in the back of your mind, there's that gnawing whisper. Why wasn't I enough? Why doesn't he choose me? You don't say it out loud, but it lingers like a shadow behind every smile, every laugh, every "I'm fine." You wonder if you're too much, or maybe not enough, or if somehow you've failed at being the kind of woman someone would never risk losing. And then there are the nights. Nights when you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation in your head. You wonder if you should have said less, cared less, expected less. You wonder if your silence will make him notice, or if it will just make you easier to forget. Your phone buzzes and your heart leaps, only to sink when it's not him. That sting, it's so small, but it cuts deep every time. This is the part no one sees. No one sees the way you check your reflection one last time before walking into a room, silently asking yourself if you look lovable enough. No one sees the way you sit at dinner with friends, laughing, while your thoughts wander back to the unanswered text. No one sees how hard you're trying, how much you're holding back, how much you long to be seen, truly seen. Not just for the mask you wear, but for the woman beneath it, the one who aches quietly in the dark. And when you finally break, when the tears come, they don't trickle, they flood. They come with the force of every unanswered call, every ignored message, every smile you faked when you wanted to scream. They carry years of being told to be strong, to hold it together, to not let anyone see you fall apart. And so, in the silence of your room, you cry harder than you admit. You bury your face in the pillow, clutch the blanket to your chest, whisper prayers you're not even sure will be heard, because you don't want anyone to know how much it hurts. You don't want anyone to see that behind the woman who seems to have it all together is someone who sometimes feels like she's falling apart. But here's the truth. You're not alone. Every woman has her version of this. Every woman knows what it's like to smile in public and break in private, to scroll through her phone wishing someone cared enough to check in, to give her all to someone who couldn't see her worth, to doubt herself in the quiet hours when the world has gone to sleep and it's just her and her thoughts. You cry harder in silence, because silence holds all the pain you don't speak. Silence is where your real feelings live, unfiltered, raw, unpolished. And maybe you'll never admit to the world how much you've been carrying. Maybe you'll keep smiling, keep pretending, keep saying I'm fine, but deep down you know. You know the silence remembers every tear you've ever shed, even the ones you try to hide from yourself. And if you've ever wondered why the tears feel heavier when no one is watching, maybe it's because in those moments you finally stop pretending. You finally let the truth surface. You finally let yourself feel the weight of everything you've been holding back. And maybe, just maybe, that's the part of you that no one has seen yet. The part that makes you real. The part that makes you human. The part that proves your pain is not weakness, but a story waiting to be told. Do you want me to now expand this into a longer diary-style continuation, like I'm walking her through an entire day, morning, afternoon, night, layered with those little details that stab the heart so it feels like I'm literally narrating her life? The truth is, you don't cry harder in silence because you're weak. You cry harder because you've been carrying truths you're afraid to face out loud. You've been blaming yourself for his silence, as if your worth is measured by how quickly he replies to your text. But hear me, his silence is not your reflection. His silence is his limitation. The truth is, he doesn't ignore you because you're unlovable. He ignores you because he isn't strong enough to love you fully. It takes courage to show up consistently, to choose someone with depth, to handle a woman whose heart beats louder than her smile. That kind of courage is rare. And it's easier for him to disappear into half effort, into distraction, into excuses, because showing up for you would expose his own inadequacy. The truth is, you've been measuring your worth against the crumbs he gives. You sit staring at your phone, heart racing, when he finally writes back, as if that small gesture proves you matter. But let me be honest. A woman's worth was never meant to be proven in notification. Your value doesn't fluctuate with his attention. His inconsistency is not evidence that you're too much. It's proof that he's not enough. The truth is, you've been asking the wrong questions. You've been wondering, what's wrong with me? Why am I not enough for him? When the real question is, why am I still entertaining someone who can't see what's already enough in me? You don't cry harder in silence because you're broken. You cry harder because deep down, you know you deserve more. And you've been betraying that truth by holding on to less. The truth is, your tears don't shame you. They're trying to wake you. Every time you break down alone, it's your soul whispering, this isn't love. This isn't how it's supposed to feel. And you ignore it because you're scared. Scared to let go, scared to face the emptiness. Scared to admit that what you wanted so badly might never come from him. But silence doesn't lie. Silence always tells you what you've been avoiding. The truth is, strength isn't in how long you can endure someone's absence. Real strength is found in the moment you decide you'll no longer beg to be seen. That's when the tears shift from breaking you to building you. That's when your silence becomes not a cage, but a choice. And maybe you don't want to hear this, but I'll say it anyway because you need to. The man who's meant for you won't make you cry harder in secret than you smile in the open. The right one won't leave you guessing, won't make you beg for scraps, won't disappear when it matters most. The right one will feel like peace, not like silence. Your tears are real, your ache is valid, but don't mistake his absence as evidence of your inadequacy. It's evidence of his inability. And deep down, you've always known the difference. You just needed someone to say it out loud. Hech, sei seid. You tell yourself you're strong, but in the dark, when it's just you and the silence, you know the truth. Your tears are heavier than the smile you show the world. You've learned to break quietly, to wipe your face and show up like nothing's wrong. But let me ask you something. Why do you still love a man who gives you half of what you deserve? Why do you keep holding onto someone who disappears when you need him most, yet shows up just enough to keep you hoping? You know, this isn't how love is supposed to feel. Real love doesn't make you stare at your phone wondering if you're worth a reply. Real love doesn't make you second guess if you're too much or not enough. So why do you stay loyal to men who can't even be loyal to their own word? Why do you keep giving when you're starving for the same in return? Is it because you're afraid that letting him go means starting over? Or is it because, deep down, you've convinced yourself that this pain is better than the emptiness of having no one at all? And if that's true, then here's the harder question. What does that belief cost you every single night when you lay your head down and cry in silence? The truth is, you don't cry harder in silence because you're weak. You cry harder because that's the only place your soul feels safe enough to admit the truth. That you're tired, that you're giving too much, that you've been holding on to someone who stopped holding you long ago. And still you ask yourself, if I leave, will I ever find love again? If I stay, will it ever get better? But here's what I want you to hear. You're not crazy for hoping. You're not foolish for giving. You're not broken because you love deeply. The problem isn't your love. The problem is that you've been pouring it into someone who doesn't have the capacity to receive it. So let me ask you again. Why do women keep loving men who give them half love? And why do you, knowing the truth in your gut, still hold on? That's the question you can't escape. That's the question you need to sit with. And before this is over, I'll give you the answer. The one you've been afraid to admit, but the one that will finally set you free. There comes a day, though you don't see it coming, when the silence that once broke you no longer holds power over you. You wake up like you always do, reaching for your phone, expecting that dull ache when his name isn't there. But this time, something's different. You still notice the absence, but it doesn't crush you. You put the phone down, and instead of waiting, you get up. You make your coffee slowly, savoring the smell. You catch your own reflection in the kitchen window, hair a little messy, eyes still soft with sleep, and for the first time in a long time, you smile. Not because someone texted you, not because anyone noticed you, but because you did. It's subtle at first, almost unrecognizable. You go about your day, but there's no weight pressing on your chest, no constant checking, no bargaining with yourself. You walk into a room and you don't wonder if you're enough. You simply are. The shift isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself, but it's powerful. It's the day you realize that the tears you cried in silence were never meant to make you smaller. They were carving out space inside you for something greater. And then it hits you. This is what freedom feels like. The day you stop waiting for his text is the day your life quietly begins again. The day you stop measuring your worth in the gaps between his replies is the day you remember your own voice. The day you stop replaying his absence is the day you start noticing your own presence. You don't shout it to the world. You don't even tell your friends. But you feel it. You feel it when you laugh and it's not forced. You feel it when you lay your head down at night and the tears don't come, because there's nothing left to prove. And maybe, just maybe, you whisper to yourself, I was always enough. He just wasn't ready to see it. That's the moment every woman who has ever cried harder in silence discovers. The day she stops waiting is the day she finally starts living. Do you want me to expand this transformation into a full cinematic sequence, a before and after narrative where she moves from silence and tears into strength and self-love so the audience sees themselves in every frame? Every woman cries harder in silence than she admits. Not because she's fragile, but because her strength has been demanded of her for too long. She carries the world in her chest. Yet, when the world goes quiet, her body finally releases what her voice never could. Those tears are not weakness. They are the weight of all the words she swallowed, the love she gave without return, the dreams she buried to make room for others. You see, a woman doesn't break in public. She doesn't let her tears fall at the dinner table, in the office, or in the arms of someone who doesn't know how to hold her heart. She saves it for the silence, because silence never interrupts, never shames, never tells her she's overreacting. Silence accepts her, exactly as she is. And so, when she finally lets go, it comes like a flood. The sobs that leave her trembling, the gasps that sound like confessions, the ache that feels older than her body. Every woman knows this secret ritual. The mascara stains on the pillow, the sound of her own breath catching in the dark, the way her chest tightens when she presses her face into the blanket so no one hears. She will wake tomorrow with swollen eyes and a smile ready for the world, and no one will suspect what the silence has seen. She cries harder in private because she has been told her whole life to be composed, to be strong, to hold it together. But a soul can only hold so much before it cracks open. And what pours out is not only sadness, it is love that went unspoken. It is the I miss you she never dared to send. It is the fight she avoided, the boundary she didn't draw, the truth she silenced for the sake of peace. Her tears are not about a single man, a single disappointment, a single moment. They are the collection of every time she gave her heart and felt it go unnoticed. Every time she wanted to scream, but chose a smile. Every time she needed someone to notice, and no one did. Why does she cry harder in silence? Because the silence tells her the truth she resists. That the man she waits for will not change, that the text she keeps hoping for may never come, that the love she has been begging for cannot be pulled from someone who does not have it to give. These truths cut deeper than rejection. They reveal the mirror she has been avoiding, that she has mistaken inconsistency with her unworthiness. But here is the deeper truth, one most women don't dare to admit. Her tears are not proof of weakness. They are proof of power. A woman cries harder in silence because her soul is stronger than her voice. Her tears carry what her words cannot. They carry her longing, her grief, her hope, her fury. They carry her capacity to love deeper than she is loved, to endure longer than she should, to dream bigger than the life she's been handed. And when she cries like this, she is not breaking down, she is breaking open. The silence becomes her witness, her altar, her confessional, and in that hidden storm, she is reshaped. For the day always comes, the day when her tears dry and her chest feels light again, that she realizes she is no longer waiting, no longer begging, no longer measuring her worth by someone else's silence. The tears, once her prison, become her liberation. Every woman cries harder in silence, because that is where her truest transformation begins. In that hidden hour, between the sob and the sigh, she learns the lesson her heart has been whispering all along, that she is not defined by who left, or who ignored her, or who failed to see her worth. She is defined by the fact that she still feels, still hopes, still believes, even when no one is watching. And so the secret remains. Those silent tears are not her shame, but her testimony. They say, I loved with everything I had, even when it wasn't returned. I carried the weight quietly, even when no one helped. I broke in silence, but I rose again in daylight. Every woman cries harder in silence than she admits. Not because she is weak, but because her soul holds oceans her lips could never name. And those tears, unseen by the world, are the proof that she was never broken, only braver than anyone ever realized. And one day, you will discover that the silence you once feared is not where you go to break, but where you go to be reborn. Because the woman who cried hardest in secret will become the woman who no longer hides her truth. And in that moment, you will realize you were never weeping for the love you lost, but for the strength you were always meant to find.